6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Mindfield's Blade Runner discussion group that will be airing, well, hopefully every Saturday. There's still some concerns over whether Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time is the best time, but it seemed to be consensus at the time when it was suggested. So here we are. And T-Shirt likes it because it's after his show. So that way we do his show, then we come right over and do this show.
Yep.
My microphone is not the best one tonight because I'm having technical issues with my goddamn computer and my Yeti mic. It's just not. So I don't sound as good as I normally do. Normally I have this booming, deep, sexy voice ready for radio. But anyway, I want to welcome my panel for right now because I don't know who all is going to end up showing up. Tom from Midnight's Edge was asking earlier about being on, but I don't know if he'll show up. But T-Shirt, of course, my good friend Ian and Tom Conkle. He apparently makes movies or something. I don't know.
Something like that. Yep.
Something like that. He's got his awards back behind him, so nah. But one of the things we talk about with Blade Runner, and this is an ongoing thing, as I said, is that it's over 40 years old, and we're still talking about it. Blade Zone is still one of the most popular. Well, it's the most popular Blade Runner site on the line, and people are still talking about it. There's an endless debate over many things. Deckard being a replicant to what the fuck happened to Mary? How come we never saw her?
Yeah.
Yep.
But other things are people get introduced to this film all the time, and there are so many versions of it to get introduced to, but I like the fact that we have so many, like the 1982 theatrical version to the 1982 theatrical European version. To the the Egyptian work print, the 1990 version of, or was it 92? 1992 version of Blade Runner, the director's cut, which is not the director's cut. And then, of course, the final cut, which was worked on by both Ridley and Charlie Deslarica. And it's considered the definitive final cut. But I'm still very fond of the 1982 theatrical version with narration. It's despite all of its mistakes and lip flap, it's a damn good film. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
If I can jump in, I agree. I mean, every iteration of it was an interesting exercise. Sometimes I remember they folded in the R-rated version where they added, the eyes popping, and there was a version with the voiceover, which I don't know if you know this, but Ridley showed that film to Billy Wilder because Billy Wilder was into film noir, and Billy was the one who had encouraged him to do a voiceover, but Harrison didn't want to do it. So he gave a flat read, hoping they
Billy Wilder is in the classic film director.
Yes, Billy Wilder, as in Double Indemnity. Billy Wilder. he was brought in and asked what he thought, because it's a very noir influenced trope to have what he calls the unreliable narrator, or the doomed narrator, it would be Deckard, reflecting back on his life, and that iteration was what went out to begin with, and for me, I mean, I have the box set now where comes with a little spinner and has all the different versions on it. I personally like the final version only because it's pure in its ending. It's a much more uncompromised ending. It's a more noir ending where it is. And it feels a little tighter with some of the edits and things that, no film has ever finished. It's only abandoned. I know that. And they abandoned it at several points. So for me, that's the definitive version. But what's beautiful about it is it means so much to so many people. If it's not the story or humanity, it's the technology, it's sort of the alt universe that it created that still resonates with us, because it's one of the first futures that I ever saw that felt like someone actually lived in it.
Yeah, and that's really, I think, what resonated with the audience is it was the old city with shit built all over it.
Yep.
Hence, it was retrofitted.
Yep.
And Sid Mead, when he first designed it, wanted to give it that sci-fi gleam look, everything nice, but Ridley was like, no, I want this to look lived in. Yep. I want it to look retrofitted. So Sid went back and he just started adding tubing and hoses and cables and boxes on the outside of buildings, and built upward from there. And it just, God damn, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching your titles there coming in and thinking, even just that brief glimpse of it, thinking, my God, this was 1982, and look at this. Look how good this still looks today.
You're right, Ian.
The 98% of the bullshit that is out there posing as science fiction, futuristic cinema. It's just, there's a reason that it grabs so many people. As you said, and for me, I have a lot of love, as you do, Jerry, for the original. The reason being, it was just as with you, Tom, it was the first science fiction movie that I ever saw that really grabbed hold of me and said, "This is the future. This is what it looks like," and it
felt more so like a real future. That's right.
It was so real.
And another director who was really in tune with that was George Lucas.
Yep.
And what he did with his spaceships by making them weathered and broken and
used future.
He wanted to create a lived-in universe rather than everything looking perfect. So I always find that interesting, and Ridley was the one really on top of that. And before we get into Rutger, we can talk a little bit about our first experience with Blade Runner. And mine was the weekend it released, and it was the first R-rated movie I went to without my dad. I just turned 18. And I go with one of the producers of this show, Jim Woodward. Bennett Sumner, David Gray, and I think Michael Vida, another close friend of ours. All of us jumped into one car and we drove to the Greenbrier Theater in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And it was a twin cinema. And we went in there, we went all the way to the front and sat slightly to the right because there was no center aisle in that theater. You had a left aisle and you had a right aisle.
Right.
And we sat on the center left and started watching the movie. And I was like, in my head, like, what the fuck is going on here? I was expecting Han Solo or Indiana Jones. This guy, this is depressing. What in the living fuck? And so we go walking out after the movie. We didn't say a word. Normally, we were like 16-year-old girls on prom night. You couldn't shut us up, right? We walk out. As we're walking out, I look over, and there's another producer of Pop Culture Minefield, Craig Edwards, coming in. And it's a joke he made a video about once because he was wearing mascara. And I said, "Hey, Craig, you going to see Blade Runner?" "Uh-huh." And I said, "Are you wearing mascara?" And he went, and turned away from me. And I'm like, I looked at him. I look at Jim, and Jim says, "Come on, come on, come on."
That's funny.
And so I was like, "Why is he wearing mascara?" I didn't understand. And so we get out in the car. Not a word spoken. Each one of us gets dropped off. Bennett goes home. Week goes by. Final week of school. I buy that weekend a copy of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep with the Blade Runner cover with Drew Struzan's artwork on it.
Yep.
I sat down and read it for the first time at age 18. And I'm like, oh my God, this is dystopian. This is dark. This is not what I went thinking it was at all. And all my friends had done the same thing. They read the book. That's week.
Which, my God, can you imagine a movie that actually gets kids to go read a book?
Oh yeah. So we all.
I'm already happy about that.
Yeah, exactly. And I turned to my friends and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to see it." He says, "Yeah, I want to go see it again." So we all jump into the same car. We drive and go see it again at the same theater, same time. And this time we walk out and we couldn't shut up about how fucking amazing it was. But that prior first watching, I fucking hated it. I really did. I had such a negative reaction to it because I didn't know what the fuck is it. Why is he only shooting women?
That's funny.
And but that second watching, I had a better understanding, a grasp of what was going on, the themes, and I fucking loved it, and it changed my life. And also, right off the bat, I made a mental connection to Les Mis. The connection between Jean Valjean and Javert. And I'm like, that was very connected in my mind to the replicant and the hunter. And it's something that's never left me. I always have that. Whenever I watch one or the other, I'm reminded of the other film.
Interesting.
So that's my experience. Let's go. We'll go clockwise. T-shirt. What was yours? First time watching it.
First time watching it, I was pretty young, and it was on HBO, because being as young as I was, I couldn't go see an R-rated film without folks, and nobody wanted to go see it, so there was that. So it wasn't until later on that I really got to appreciate it. But first on, I was kind of like most normies, I guess, going into it. It's Harrison Ford, he was Han Solo, he was Indiana Jones. And that's what I was hoping to see when I first saw the film. And that is not what I saw. And I couldn't really comprehend it, the depth of it so much, the first time I watched it. It wasn't until subsequent watches and really getting more emotionally involved in the characters and reading the book that I really started to find the depths of the film and what it meant to me. And of course, later on down the line, really getting more and more invested in cyberpunk and making the connection to what Blade Runner really brought to that genre.
Interesting. Is that all you got? I don't want to interrupt.
Well, I mean, you want to know how I feel about it now, or you're just wanting just the first thoughts from back then?
I mean, did you evolve in your thoughts at all?
Absolutely. This film, I almost call it a series of films because there's 5 different prints of it, and I watch all 5 of them every year. And I always pull something new out of every viewing. And I mean, even the stuff that most people would be considering boring, like the bicycle scene that's shot and inserted for almost no reason, I find that beautiful. I love the neon, and at the time that was something that was so kind of foreign and alien to me. But now it's very commonplace. If you went to downtown Kowloon, it would look like that, especially with the rain. The fashions are not so strange now. It looks that way now.
Well, yeah, you can go down certain cities globally, especially in the eastern countries. And be reminded very much of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of amazing how much of that film has become reality, and yet how much of it hasn't, because we still don't have the flying spinner cars.
And I've always said that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if they develop them, it will never be for civilian use. Only law enforcement and government and military.
Which apparently it was in the film too.
Yeah, well, they show in the comic book version, they show other vehicles like trucks and stuff, and I'm like, no, that'll never happen.
Nah.
Trucks are dangerous to begin with. That you want to have them over you too.
But
I want to welcome the Wake Down here. I made a
Wake.
mistake in my invitations, and I made sure to add you and Tom Connors to the group to get you in. I'm hoping Connors will show up because I love that dude. But welcome, Wake Down. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always great to show up and talk about Blade Runner.
Hells to the yeah.
I didn't even know you were a fan, dude.
Oh, yeah, man. We did a whole stream on it a week or so ago.
Yeah,
I argued for like 4 hours about whether or not Deckard was a replicant.
He's not.
Yeah, we'll probably do an episode about that and go at it. But Tom, your turn. Your first Blade Runner experience.
Well, it's funny. I've only met you fairly recently, but I also saw it in Virginia when I was 16. I saw it, I believe, over in Tyson's Corner. That's where I lived. I went with a buddy of mine that I ended up moving to Los Angeles with. He wanted to be a writer and an actor as well, and we were just kids. And we went in to see, I think, a late afternoon showing of Blade Runner, and I didn't know what to expect either. I'd seen the artwork. You know, back then you would get a black and white picture in a newspaper, and there was no internet or any information about it. So I think I'd seen a TV spot, and I'd seen the artwork in the newspaper, and it blew me away on a couple. Huh? What's that?
No, that was a little bleed in. Ignore it.
Sure. You know, for me, I already knew I kind of wanted to make movies when I was a kid, but that was the first future I ever felt like if you went around the corner, there'd actually be something there. And what I mean by that is the layer cake. You know, Ridley Scott, the director, he came out of the British School of Commercials with Alan Parker, you know, his brother Tony, all these things, where they would create these sort of what I call visual orgasms. They would have all these sort of shots that really immersed you in a layer cake that 7 layers down you could look through and you'd be like, my God, there's a fan inside the window of that model that they built for that building, and they bothered to make it turn around. And you know, I'm coming out of, you know, Logan's Run and all these things where you feel like you're either in a shopping mall or everything's really clean, or you feel like if you went around one corner, there'd be nothing there but a flat and no reality at all. Versus Blade Runner, I felt like if I could have walked around in that thing, there would have been things around the corner. There would have been all these different things in it. And I thought, wow, what a powerful thing, because it felt like a portal into a potential future, like a real future. And then I frankly loved the music. I think, you know, Vangelis's soundtrack to this day is one of the best film soundtracks I'd ever heard. It was a character in the movie that resonated with me because I'd never really heard an effective synth score in a movie. It was either cheesy Moog synthesizers, you know, playing in the 70s going meow, 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 meow. And here you had this lush, otherworldly score that was another character. And then, frankly, I love the cast and I love the theme, which was humanity. You know, what made them more human than human? What does it mean to live in the kind of slavery that we all live inside? You know, we're cogs within this machine, and what is it that makes you human, which it questioned in this, you know, way that science fiction can do. So everything was firing for me. I didn't care that it wasn't like all the Hollywood movies. I didn't feel like it needed to hit all the beats that I had seen, because it felt to me like an alternate universe, an alternate world. I didn't need the Hollywood pacing. I didn't need that. What I wanted is to be immersed in this world and just have it just kind of wash over me, even as a kid, because I had not seen that potential in a film before. I hadn't seen that type of storytelling where the visuals and the music are inextricably linked to the experience of the movie. It wasn't just, hey, that was a great story, or I really felt like Rick Deckard. It was like, no, I feel like I was just in a Los Angeles that doesn't exist. You know, so for me, that used future, the music, the cinematography, the acting, the story, the heady. It was a film for adults that was a science fiction. That was rare, and I think all of that just made it so refreshing that as a kid I went, oh, that's what movies can do, and it really changed my brain about it.
Yeah, I totally get what you're talking about, man. Wake Down. What was your first experience?
Well, I actually came to Blade Runner a little later in life. I was probably in my late 20s the first time I saw it. And I honestly think that worked out better because I had a greater understanding of the world, and I could appreciate it more for what it was, as opposed to just, being awed by the flash and the effect, because it still stands up to this day. And I'm 34 now, so I probably saw it the first time 5 or 10 years ago. And everything that everyone here has already said, right down to the atmosphere of the film. To the point that I would literally watch, in a non-joking way, I would watch a series that was just an anthology of nobodies going about their day in that Los Angeles. Just the guy that delivers the paper, the guy that makes your sandwich, all of it.
That's the best compliment you can make right there.
Yeah, we kind of got a TV series early on, back in, I think, the 90s, early 2000s, Total Recall series. And it was clearly more Blade Runner than it was Total Recall.
Definitely.
And I remember Gary Willoughby and I tried contacting them multiple times to do interviews and let us help promote them, because nobody was watching the show because it was syndicated, so it didn't have a set time and place to be watched. And we wanted to help promote it. And I don't know if they're just assholes or if the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. Nobody responded to any of our hails to help support them. And it depressed me because it only got one season because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was definitely a Blade Runner-esque show.
It was,
but moving on
guys,
to Ian. Ian, what was your first one, laddie?
Well, I was a Scots kid living in a small town in the Highlands.
Get the fuck out of here. From Scotland?
No.
I love Scotland.
And I right from the very first issue of 2000 AD, I was a Dreadhead. I loved Judge Dredd, so I already knew about what dystopian meant. I knew about the future wasn't going to be bright and shiny. That there was something quite dark waiting for us out there. This is what I'd been raised on. Pat Mills and John Wagner and these sorts of writers. They had us kind of primed for this. But then I took a chance and I went to the cinema to see this movie, which I hadn't heard very much about. And I sat with 3 friends, and we were the only people in the cinema. Like downstairs with the main feature, upstairs with the tiny little screen, postage stamp kind of thing. And we're sitting there watching this movie, and my friends were looking at me and saying, like, you chose this. I'm enjoying it. 2 of them got up halfway through to go outside and have a cigarette, never came back. With myself and this other guy sitting there, and he's saying, it's okay. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. But we came out of it afterwards, and there was just something about it. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but there was something about it that made me want to go back. So 2 nights later, I went back, and there was no one in the place, just me. And it was the most personal experience I've ever had in the cinema.
Well, they were watching E.T., right?
For me, Oh, yeah, everyone else is downstairs watching E.T.
Yeah.
I could hear the music playing, and I'm saying,
it was a great year for movies. Yeah, it was a great year.
I'm up there watching this movie. The ice cream seller comes in, and I'm like, go away, because it's like he was spoiling my viewing of this movie. And right there and then, you spoke about being immersed in it, Tom, and it was like, you're drowning in this experience.
That's a great term, drowning in it. Yeah.
You're the only person there. And right there and then was when I got as well. I got that Deckard is the bad guy.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And I kind of the thinking, Batty, boy, Rutger Hauer, unbelievable performance. I mean, he made a 15-year-old boy tear up at the end of that movie. we don't do that kind of thing in Scotland. And I'm sitting there,
Oh yeah,
no one can see, no one can see. But I had a lump in my throat, I had a tear in my eye, thinking, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and he is the hero.
yeah.
It was, it's just as everyone else has said, it altered my view of cinema and what cinema can do forever.
Very true.
And amazing part of that is, um, and this will be the only time I bring up Blade Runner 2049. Um, as much as I thought it was a very well written script and beautifully shot and well acted, my problem was it doesn't feel connected to Blade Runner. The atmosphere of the film feels different. And somebody says, well, it's been in the storyline like 20 years later. And I'm like, look, man, I've been going to LA since I was a kid. And I still know my fucking way around LA to this day. And I can be away for 10, 15 years between visits and still fucking know my way. The LA of Blade Runner 2049, I wouldn't know my way around that LA from the LA of the first Blade Runner. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't have the same retrofit. Everything looked clean and sterile compared to the lived-in and retrofit of the original film. And so I made a statement that the film will never have the cinematic impact of the original film because of that. That it won't inspire filmmakers like the 1982 film did. Am I right or wrong?
I tend to agree.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find many motion pictures of any kind, whether it's science fiction or any other, that will influence and affect and inspire other filmmakers, or any branch of the industry the way that Blade Runner has. I think that's for me, it's an impossibility. At this moment in time, it's an impossibility.
Well, for me, the fact that, a few decades have passed does not excuse what to me was the biggest glaring mistake with 2049. And it's simply the fact that in the original Blade Runner, we see a society that is obviously in stagnation. And in 2049, it's still a bad society, but they've made advances. Everything is cleaner and fresher, and it seems like things should have went in the other directions. If anything, it should look worse than Blade Runner did.
Yeah.
Well, other than that huge blackout zone, which that didn't make a lot of sense to me either. But
Right.
Well, that was kind of addressed in some of the three prequels, the little shorts that they slotted onto the internet beforehand. Blackout was one of them. It's by the guy that does what's it called, the Cowboy Bebop, whatever it's called. I've never watched it, to be honest with you, but I did watch the short and think, yeah, that's a nice movie. I can appreciate that, but it didn't sink in with Blade Runner for me. They're trying to address it now, apparently, with the new animated series that's going to be coming out, Blade Runner Black Lotus.
yeah,
But I think that's a mistake. I think that they should just leave well enough alone, and we'll see. I mean, I don't want to be too negative. It's something that I haven't seen anything of. I believe that's a mistake to do that. Judge something for what it is when I can actually lay eyes on it. But this is what they say, is that they're addressing and explaining how we got from the dead Earth of Deckard's time to the sort of glitzy, sky high, hologramic, as you say, a brighter, shinier world of 2049.
yeah. See, I'm of the mind that what you see on the screen is all you need, or it should be all you need. If you're going to have supplemental, short films, TV series, movies, books, whatever, all that stuff, it's cool and it should add on to a film, but it shouldn't have to explain away things in films, retcon films, or make excuses for stuff that happened in a film. If you can't show and get across everything in your message in the film itself, then you messed up on your film. I mean, the first Blade Runner movie didn't need, like a whole bunch of prequels and side explanations and everything for why all the things were the way they were. They just presented the film to you as it is. You took it in, and it's a complete story from beginning to end.
Well, it was a dying world.
Yeah.
Everybody was leaving.
Dead world, yeah.
You know, the people that were stuck here were people like J.F. Sebastian, who had a condition that wouldn't allow him. They called it the Methuselah syndrome in the movie, but it's an actual real disease. I forget that, progeria. Yeah, it's like I grow old too quickly, and so you and that was something I think they talked about in the book, as I recall, because in the book he was called a chicken head.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to, because he wasn't smart enough or some shit to leave the planet, because you had to take tests to get off the planet. Also because of radiation, if you're mutated or infected by what they called World War Terminus in the book, it was literally the killer of the planet. That's why they called it World War Terminus, because they killed the planet.
Yeah, they had the kibble problem.
Yeah, what's that?
The kibble problem.
Kibble, yep.
Yeah.
Waste. And the building up of waste. Mm-hmm. But it's kibble.
Yeah. Kibble. Yeah, kibble, yeah. And
like nipple.
Yeah. 2049 did not impress me at all. And maybe it was because of the fact that I was so hardwired with the regular Blade Runner. But I did pick it up to watch it with the full intention of, this ought to be great. This is going to be a sequel to the best film I've ever loved. And even after I watched it a couple of times, I'm just like, this feels like a whole nother movie in a whole nother place that has nothing to do with the original film whatsoever, other than kind of ham-fistedly inserting Harrison Ford in the shitty plot with his imperfect daughter, and the Sean Young character, which I was kind of like, you didn't need to do this. You did not need to do this, Dennis. You could have just told your own story, left all the regular characters from the first movie out of it, and you would have had a fine film just on its own.
Well, he kind of did, because Ridley Scott was there for a lot of the making of it, and Ridley had a very heavy hand involved in what went down on the set, even to the stage that he tried to force Villeneuve into saying that Deckard is a replicant.
Because we talked about that. That is why he didn't direct it, and it's why he was put in the position of an executive producer.
When they shot the scene with Jared Leto, with Neander Wallace, where he has his micronics, which can see right into the cellular makeup of a character, of a being, he spoke to Jared Leto beforehand, Denis Villeneuve, and he said, "You will know what he is." And Jared Leto said, "Well, how do you want me to play it?" And he said, "Well, you will know." And so he went into that scene thinking, "Gosh, I make this decision," and he made the conscious decision. It's not right for me to end this. So that's why he was allowed to mix up the dialogue, and he mixed up the dialogue there somewhat to, first of all, offer up that Deckard, the exposition that Deckard is a replicant, and then perhaps, or not, he decided to throw that in at the last minute. I mean, as a science fiction movie on its own, it's a great movie. It really is a great movie. As a Blade Runner purist, I agree with you. It doesn't quite fit in. But it was
it's a better written script.
Yeah,
but only because Ridley got fired and they didn't let him finish the movie he was trying to make.
Yeah,
I think the film would have been a lot better if Tandem Entertainment hadn't, fired him multiple times. And
there's elements, so many elements of the story in 2049 that just don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Why is this whole build up with Wallace, and then
The one thing I find interesting about this, and maybe you guys will agree with me, is the potential of a replicant war.
Oh yeah.
Because that was clearly what they were insinuating throughout the third act, is that this is all headed towards a war. And that is what made me sad when Kay dies, because he's never going to find out how it ended, but he feels completed, because he feels that he had completed the one thing he set out to do.
Yeah. I have to say, when they played that little bit of music, it did
Tears
kind of
in Rain. Yeah,
it got me because.
Oh, fuck you! It totally got you. It got me. I got a big old lump in my throat.
It comes back to Rutger Hauer and just how bloody amazing he was. So that's why it got me. Is just because it just made me think of him. That little half smile, and it's just every
That's what they
time
were going for.
that part of that movie gets me.
Definitely. Ryan's a terrific actor. I think he had a very difficult part because he had to play a character that's emotions had to be in check in order to be believable, and yet I think the great misdirect in that is you feel like, oh, he's going to discover that he's Deckard's kid, or he's going to do this or that, or they have the misdirect with finding the horse, which was alluded to in the other thing, and he finds it when they're working among the children, that are stripping things out in the wasteland, and there's moments that he played on his face that I think the moniker, more human than human, was very much applicable to his performance, in that he made you feel like he wanted desperately to connect the way a human does. He had the reason they named one character Love and the other one Joy in the script is because Love was looking for a kind of connection, a dysfunctional love to the Jared Leto character. It was a very dysfunctional relationship. I had a feeling that every time a new model came out, he brought Love down and slit that first creation open right in front of her, and you'll notice the cameras around him. One of them turns and watches Love's face because he wants some kind of reaction. He wants in that moment her to feel something or to have something. And so she kills with the same kind of knife. She kills the character that Robin Wright plays with the same type of slash and knife, not a gun, anything else. She's looking for love and approval, and her love is twisted. He created a monster with her. Whereas joy is what every human being is looking for, the pursuit of happiness and joy. And I feel like Ryan's character, even though he's a machined character or a artificial life form, that scene where he wants to connect with her and they literally get another woman so that he can feel something with her and that they can be together, I thought was very poetic. And I thought Hampton Fancher, who wrote the first one, got to finish a lot of the thoughts that he had in the first one, but the complexities weren't able to be there in the first one. Just exploring like humanity and how beautiful it is what we are as human. Is that just the collection of memories? I mean, how ironic that Deckard's daughter, spoiler alert, is alive but must be isolated, but creates the memories that make people feel human, and yet she can't experience them herself. She has to experience them from a distance the way we experience a movie. We're living someone else's life and creating memories that aren't our own, and yet they become part of us. And when Ryan Gosling collapses on that stairway, he's actually sacrificing himself as a human to that one moment of, you know what? I grimly give in to this. This is the one human thing that I could do, is put this father back in touch with this daughter, and I'm not the one. I'm not the son. I'm not loved. I'm not the one that's wanted. It's her.
And for me, that's where the echo of Roy Batty came in, because Roy knew that he could not live any longer, and so he did something. So that he, I've used the phrase before, and I don't even know where I got it from, whether it came out of my head or it came from somewhere else. But I've used the phrase constantly in my group, that we are an accretion of memories.
Yes. And
as long as we are remembered, as long as our parents are remembered in us and what we do and what we say and how we do things, then they live on.
Yes,
And all Roy had on that rooftop was the chance to live on in somebody else's memory. Every day of that man's life, he would remember that he was alive because of this replicant who saved his life.
that's right. Who knew the value of life more
And
than
to
even
live
Vickers.
on further, and he gave this gift to this being who really didn't deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. He was
Again,
the villain.
in
Yeah,
2029, you have the same kind of thing. This man who's hidden away. I mean, you could say, or you can also say, is it cowardly? Is it heroic? Other people might say, who cares? But this guy has hidden himself away, and he's been out of touch with the world. He's had no influence in the world for how many years? And along comes this guy who's a good guy, uh, by some standards. By others, who would say, he's a killer. Again, we have a guy who's a killer, but he was made that way.
right.
But he has a chance to change a life and to give a life.
To redeem himself.
Redeem
Yeah.
himself. Yeah,
And I think Rutger Hauer, as the actor, understood that so profoundly that he wrote that speech at the end of Blade Runner.
Yeah,
And
because the original soliloquy was 2 pages long.
yeah, and he added that, all these moments will be lost in time like tears in the rain, meaning this will all go away in the large, scheme of things, but one person will remember him. And his search for immortality was in that moment of creating the memory. And then they echo it in 2049 when Ryan Gosling takes him to his daughter. He's doing a thing to create a memory that will last forever. And she literally creates memories that make people think they're human, or at least give them the cushion that they need to be it. So I think there's your profound line between the two. And then Rutger, the actor, bringing that next level to Roy Batty, what could have been just a B movie, I'm evil and I want more life, I'm going to kill you. He brought a European sensibility and an elegance to him that I feel like the reason that Rutger Hauer is so memorable in that is he is the hero in his own story. And most importantly, his character has the biggest arc. He goes from looking like someone who's come back to wreak vengeance when actually he's come back to find meaning. What is the meaning of all this that I've done? What is it? Is there something more? Is there more to life? Is I want more life from my father. Why am I not human? And in asking those questions, there is great violence. But at the end of it, he's like, you know what? Life is precious and I'm losing it. And these last moments of my life, I realize just how fragile it is, and that everything that you are will be lost in that moment. And I won't allow that to happen to you. And he saves him, even though he was his assassin. And he makes him a better person than even the protagonist in the film. And for Rutger Hauer to sit down and pen that poetry for his character to say, and to say it with such dignity and such just, you can hear it only in his voice. Only he could have delivered it, only in that moment. That to me is lightning in a bottle. That's why he needed to be that man in that part at that moment in time for Blade Runner to go next level.
I 100% agree with you on that. And I want to spend the last few minutes talking about Rutger, but I do want to answer something about, is there going to be a sequel to 2049? And the odds are no, there won't be.
Unfortunately.
As badly as Blade Runner did theatrically when it was released in 82, it still made its money for Warner Brothers and the Tandem, the Blade Runner partnership, Tandem Entertainment, because of VHS. It was like one of the number one VHS rentals and purchases.
Yeah, today in home video, I looked it up. It makes more money now this year than it did in all of the 80s.
Yeah.
Because anyone that gets a Blu-ray machine or a 4K machine or anything, they buy Blade Runner. It's selling 10 million a year.
Exactly. And even though people are buying copies, I bought 2 copies of 2049.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, I don't know if we'll ever be able to see a sequel to it, because theatrically it did very poorly. It's an artistic film. It tried to be more than the sum of its parts. And in some ways, I think it succeeded. But the problem is, people didn't go see it, and I think that was Warner Brothers' problem. I think they caused it.
Marketing, yeah,
Really shitty marketing, shitty fucking marketing.
yeah, almost no marketing, yeah.
Because I honestly would love to see what happens next, even though it doesn't feel connected to Blade Runner 1982. I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the story. I loved Kay as a character.
Yep.
I hated that he died at the end.
But he had
I
to.
would like to know what's going to happen next with the replicants and the war.
And it's nice, isn't it nice? I think all of us are grown-ups. Isn't it nice that they're doing a science fiction alt reality film for us? That it isn't playing to the lowest common denominator, that there's a high level of thought, that we're still considered important as an audience, that guys like us at our ages can enjoy a grown-up movie that is sci-fi. We like genre films too. They don't all need to be Transformers. They don't all need to be the sort of lowest common denominator sci-fi. I think hopefully we can reward people that make more thoughtful films like this, or films that are the big grown-ups table type film, that we have more opportunities now to see films than ever before and all these things. But as a filmmaker, I feel like I actually have less choices of what I can make. And the same three companies own all these, you can look at 15 different, I can make it for Hulu. Wait, no, that's owned by Disney. Oh, wait, I can make it for this. Oh, actually Sony owns that. So there's a zillion choices and only three people giving them to you. And I feel like we need to reward films like this. Like, we need to go out and buy new iterations of Blade Runner. We need to make ourselves heard that, yes, we will watch it, make something good, and we will watch it. And as you say, everyone would kind of like to see, well, can we play in that world a little more? But if we don't buy the ticket and we don't endorse it, they're not going to make more. Somebody asked in the room what version of Blade Runner to watch. I would watch the latest iteration first, because that's the most complete version, the most coherent version, and it's also readily available. And if they sell them, it will encourage at least the people that own the property to maybe do more. But I think the bottom line of it is that grown-ups like us can get together and talk about a movie like this, a science fiction movie like this. This is a very encouraging thing.
Yep.
Kids,
and I want to
watch
point
them
something
all.
out to Stephen Ott's comment. Warner Brothers is crap when it comes to marketing their films. AT&T is shaking shit up over there. People are leaving, and they're being let go. And this is my favorite video for that.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
AT&T is not a fucking movie company. It is a commerce and technology company.
Yep.
Communication. Yep. And they do not like the way Warner does its business. They said, we like to make money for our investors, and we are going to change things. And we know that Hamada is out. We actually, and all of them are out. They're going to all be gone by May of next year. And that's almost as much good news as hearing about Chris Chibnall and Whitaker.
Oh, yeah. Don't let the door hit you on the way out on that one, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, another question before you go. I'm sorry. I want to deal with what they had said in the chat. I was asked, Gary, do you think a sequel series could work? Not the way that they're doing the comics or the animated series. I'm not going to bother. I hated the comic. I read issue 1 and was just garbage. Yeah. Identity politics are not fucking cool with me. I want a good story. I don't want your fucking politics. Same thing goes for Black Lotus. I'm not excited by what I've seen. It's more identity politics. I want to see a solid story. When you start seeing nothing but females as the main characters, you're dealing with somebody who's playing identity politics.
Yeah.
When you see a mixture of characters, it's not. And we're not seeing that. We're seeing the main characters always being female. And not that I have a problem with that. I dislike it when it becomes the thing to do all the time. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it because that's the thing. And it's like, nope, I'm not interested in your identity politics. I want a good fucking story. So right now, Denis Villeneuve would make a good sequel or sequel series. but
Oh,
I
he's
don't think
very
they're going to
good.
go to him
Yeah,
after Dune, and I'm really looking forward to Dune.
me too. It looks
Now,
masterful.
Yeah.
Can I say, taking it back to the 2049 and the link to Roy Batty, I have to say that there is another link for me in that Roy has a dark side. The guy is capable of doing them nothing. It's there you have love, who is kind of like she's almost like this. If you could take every bad thing that Roy's ever done, and he's fought some really long, hard, crappy wars for mankind. If you could take every nasty thing he's ever done and you could parcel it up into another being, that's love. That's all she's known since her inception. That's all she's known is the guy who's created her is seriously twisted in a way that would make Tyrell's head spin. Tyrell's just like playing God, but this guy genuinely believes he's God.
Yeah, he's the abusive father.
And she is his angel. And I said in a podcast discussion in another group that when you think about biblically, he calls her his best angel. The angels of the Bible are not the sort of people you want to meet. They're not, oh hallelujah, they're here to save us. Feathery, beautiful beings. They are terrible, awful creatures who do God's bidding and smite. They wipe the earth clean. They scour life. And so when he calls her his best angel, that's what he's saying. He's saying, you're the one who I sit here in my dark little hole, and you go out there, and I'm the hand, you're the knife. And they show that almost literally. When he, as you said, Tom, when he slices that replicant's belly open, and then later on, she uses those same knives in the same kind of way. There's something so repressed about her. I mean, as a cop, as a detective, I know that stabbing is often a sign of repressed sexuality. It is often a sexual act, and she really gets off sticking the knife in.
Yeah, you can see that.
That she feels, even to the extent of kissing Kay after sticking that knife in his ribs. It's like, I'm the best one.
Yeah.
She's as dark and twisted as they come, but that there's something of Roy in her. I felt.
Yeah.
As if Roy was the seed, and she's what went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, teacher. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to steer it back to Rutger and Roy.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to do.
Cool.
Because we're down to our last 6 minutes.
All right. Well, one thing I want to say is people tend to overlook exactly how much Rutger actually brought to that part. The scene with the dove was his idea.
Yeah.
The leap between the buildings was his idea. The chase between him and Deckard.
That wasn't his idea.
That was his idea. Because otherwise
they
were going to have a Bruce Lee
they had a
fight.
Stuntman.
They were going to have
I can do it.
They were going to have a Bruce Lee style fight in the gymnasium, and he said, "Nah, it's been done in so many other films. Why don't we make it a chase?" And that's
I agree with.
And to Ridley's credit, he let that happen. He presided over some happy accidents. He let that happen.
And who doesn't fucking love that scene when he swings out that window to meet Deckard on the ledge? You go, where are you going?
Yeah, where are you going? That hurt.
That hurt.
Yeah. That wasn't logical. He goes, that wasn't logical.
That was irrational.
That was irrational.
Oh my god, that whole fucking scene is so
He's
intense.
teasing him.
I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But the other part of it is Roy, aside from being, what some people would portray as a hero and everything, he is also the tool of self-redemption, or of redemption, I would say, for Deckard. Because Deckard is this burnt-out husk of a man who is just, ready to quit on everything. He has, almost no emotions about anything, like his wife says. Sushi, that's what my wife called me. Cold fish.
Yep.
And by the end of it, Roy has reawakened his senses, and, the other replicant, played by Sean Young, has also reawakened his desires, his senses.
Right.
But between these two machines, they have brought this human back to life. They've kind of restored his humanity. And especially that final scene on the rooftop with Roy, this machine that's been terrorizing him, saves his life, and, you know, kind of gives his last, you know, his dying, you know,
Right.
words to this man.
Yeah, I mean that's not his due date. You know, it's as though he expends himself. The whole pushing the nail through. It's like he's forcing, he's eating every last bit out for this moment, and he squeezes every last second of life to the extent that he's got nothing left.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
he's done it for this man who wanted to kill him, just as you said, Tom, his assassin. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Not to mention he killed the woman he loved.
yeah,
right.
yeah. See, that's the thing is, you were talking earlier on about what he wants. It's not just for him, though. It's not just a selfish thing. He's wanting life for all of them, for all his friends. You know, he's looking for it for them as well. You know, for Leon as much as for himself. You know, he has this responsibility. You know, so it's not. There is a real nobility to Roy. You see, he does some dirty things, but he's not selfish. He's not wrapped up in himself. You know. But at the end, you could forgive him for thinking he wants revenge on this guy.
Last minute here. Wake down. Come on, you've been too quiet, motherfucker. Let's get some thoughts in here. Make your closing statement about Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer.
I would argue that while the beautiful performance, excellent performance, he's not, to me at least, he didn't come across as a hero. Yes, he is fighting and doing everything that he does, all these dark acts, for the betterment of the replicants, because he sees a future for the replicants that he wants to achieve. But I would say that there are no heroes in Blade Runner, which is, to me, one of the more interesting things. As we've said, this is a dying world that has lost all of its potential. Everybody and everything that's left is the bottom tier of society.
I think that it in its own way, it talks about regaining humanity, as we see that Roy Batty's character gains humanity, and Deckard regains his humanity because of what happened on that rooftop.
I don't think he's a hero at the start of the movie, but I think that by the end of the movie, he's redeemed. You know, so
that's it. It's not about heroism or great heroic acts. It is a story of humanity.
Yeah,
at its best and at its worst,
and proving that he is human.
Well, I want to thank my panel. You guys are great. I'd like to have you guys on regularly, man. T-shirt, as usual. You're the bomb diggity yo.
Thank you.
Tom Conkle, fuck you, man. You're too good. You're too fucking good at what you do. I like you so much. I'm not gay for you yet, but
yeah.
And the Wake Down, dude, thanks for coming on the show, man. I hope you come back again. And Ian, I hope you're just a regular as usual on this show. And maybe next week we'll get Doomcock or Tom. I have access to them. It all depends on their schedules, period. That's it. With that, I want to thank my amazing chat. You guys are always awesome. Monkey Jeebus, I fucking love your name. You and Mr. Tickle Trunk, your names just fucking kill me. Zax, as always, you know, as Ilock, Stephen Naughton. Who else was here? Shit. I'm looking.
I agree with Stephen Naughton.
Yeah. Jacob, my friend Jacob, he's an actual friend of mine in real life. He dropped in, and I'm going to have to message him because he said, Gary, don't get COVID. So that means to me that he probably got COVID, and I'm not happy about that because I've already lost 2 friends to it. So Ragnar, Raging Rat was here, and I think that's Cold Era. God, there's a lot of people here. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to leave us on a little thing. Let's see. Let me close out with my new Blade Runner video, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here.
He say you Blade Runner.
Tell him I'm eating.